In the book of Galatians, the Apostle Paul is writing to this church, warning them of a false gospel that's going around, a gospel that's not good news at all. And it says this, and it's something that Paul calls accursed. It's that you're not only called to embrace Christ and become a Christian, you also have to be Jewish. So again, in the Gentile, the non-Jewish world, people are saying, hey, you want to follow Christ? Well, first you got to be circumcised. First you have to do all these Jewish customs. That's what they were saying. And Paul is furious about it. And in chapter 2, he tells the story about how he approaches the apostle Peter and rebukes him. Whenever Peter is hanging out with Gentiles, with non-Jews, he's eating with them, he's fellowshipping with them, and then in walk some pious Jews, and what does he do? He switches lunch tables. Paul goes up to him. He says that his conduct is not in step with the gospel. It's working against God's plan to bring together a people of every people group and nation in the world. It goes against the gospel. It's not in step with it, Paul says, and he rebukes Peter and said, why are you doing this? Why are you living like this? Now, last time I talked about how much of a grace it must be to receive that kind of love from Paul and how we should receive that from others. But today I want you to just ponder and think with me what this means about the possibility for change, right? This good news that Jesus was bringing together diverse peoples, although it was absolutely in the Old Testament, it had been lost, it had been forgotten, it had been avoided by the Old Covenant people of God. And they didn't expect it, right? And it was all new, and Peter didn't get it very quickly at all, right? If you read the book of Acts and you read from chapter 10, he had to have a vision to grasp it, right? And here we find ourselves again. He's out on the mission field, as is Paul, and he's going back to the old ways, and Paul is rebuking him here. And what I want to remind you about is that it takes time for some people, but people can truly change. And I mean even change about how they think about race and racism, social justice, and matters of mercy. Now don't hear me saying this. Be patient. I don't want my black brothers and sisters to hear that because they've been patient long enough, right? And I also want to say to them, I don't want you to feel like that you're the ones that have to continually teach white people and get us with the program, right? Not at all. No. What I am trying to say though is change is possible. Change happens. We see people like Peter. Of course, we see Paul, who's going around abusing and persecuting Christians, and suddenly he's a Christ follower here, rebuking Peter for having too small of a gospel. God can do anything. He changes hearts. And I just want to call to you with me to just pray that God will work among the people of America and among people in the American church, that we, especially white brothers and sisters, would not give up on our brothers and sisters around us, but we would patiently, kindly share them a more full-orbed, beautiful gospel, that we would call people out in love. And yeah, it means sometimes we have to kind of shake the dust off our feet and go on to the next person that wants to really understand what the gospel does, but we can also have a hope for change. He did it for me, he did it for Peter, he's done it for you. Hopefully he can do it for them. But we're always going to have ways we need to change, always going to have ways that we can grow. And the Holy Spirit is powerful, God is faithful, and he can use us to share the gospel that brings people together from every tribe and tongue and nation.